Right, so what I'm going to do today is, break up Tatyova. It was a kind of experiment, see how it worked. Blue-green semi-landfall. I built the deck because I had an open slot in my suite of decks, in the boxes that I keep them in. But I didn't really want to build another blue-green deck. I already have Edric, and Edric works. Edric is tuned. But I thought, okay, Tatyova. 3 blue-green for a 3/3 Merfolk Druid. Whenever land enters battlefield under control, you gain 1 life, draw a card. So the idea was, I would always have a full hand, and always have a lot of life. Let's talk about some of the cards that didn't work out that well. Temporal Distortion. 3 blue for an enchantment. Whenever a creature or land becomes tapped, put an hourglass counter on it. Permanents with an hourglass counter on them do not untap during their controller's untap step. At the beginning of everybody's upkeep, they remove all hourglass counters from permanents they control. In practice, this didn't sit out long enough, but thinking about it, so it was supposed to slow things down, it was supposed to work well with other cards in the deck, and I was going to bypass it with Seedborn Muse. And it didn't seem that the effect was worth the slot or worth the mana cost. Maybe if it was cheaper, maybe if it was 3 mana cost, it would be better. But it didn't sit right. Probably in a control deck, probably in a more controlish deck, which I could tune this for, but I just don't want to. So what I'm going to do is, after I take it apart, I do not have a black-green deck, nor do I have an elf deck. So I'm going to build a black-green elf deck. I've got most of the cards for it, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Of course, the Genie already has a black-green elf deck, so I will just not use his commander. His commander is the one you tap 10 untapped elves and everybody loses 10 life, some shit like that. Anyway, he's got her. I'm not going to use her. I'm going to use something else. So this card has potential. There's something there. Mainly love it because of the art, but I don't know, it just has to be the right deck. Okay, disallow always fucking works. There's no reason to talk about that. It just does what it does. Equilibrium. So in the games that I've played with Tatyova, Equilibrium worked out pretty good when I got it in play. So 1 blue, whenever you successfully cast, whenever a creature you control, you cast, comes into play, whenever a creature comes into play from your hand, you can pay 1 to return target creature to its owner's hand. So you can bounce your opponent's creatures and get them off the board. You can bounce your creatures, so you can recycle their enter the battlefield abilities, like this chick here. 1 in a blue for a 2/1 flying merfolk rogue, thieving skydiver. Kicker X. X can't be 0. Flying. When she comes into play, she is kicked. Gain control of target artifact with CMC X or less. If it's an equipment, attach it, and it becomes yours. So, actually, no. If it's an equipment, your opponents can, the way the card is worded, your opponents can pay the equip cost to take it off of her and put it back on their creature. I think when I played her, all I did was take a soul ring. You can't unequip a soul ring. Realm Right. Okay, I got this one for the deck, and even though it's a card I already own in another deck, this is very useful. If you're playing any kind of deck tinged with blue, a multicolor deck, and you have any kind of mana problems, get one of these guys. 1 blue for a 1/1 Vidalcan Wizard. When he comes into play, choose a basic land type. Lands you control are the chosen type in addition to their other types. So if you want all your lands to produce blue, you just say island. So everything you play is an island in addition to whatever it is. So all your cool provides colorless mana but taps for something else lands, like Heliod's Hall of Heliod's Generosity, Nykthos, if you need just one blue rather than using Nyktos' ability. Well, there you go. Realm Right will hook you up. Okay, green slime. I didn't get to play this, but I've seen it in action, so I know it works. 2 and a green for a 2/2 flashy ooze. You can foretell it for 2, so later on you can just play 1 green for a 2/2 flashy ooze. Then when it comes into play, you counter the activated or triggered ability from an artifact or enchantment, and if the ability is countered this way, you destroy it. So instead of just outright destroying an artifact or enchantment, they don't even get the use out of it if it's got some kind of activated ability. You know, like Quicksilver Amulet. Flash this into play, counter them putting a creature into play, and then blow up the amulet. Soul Ring. If they're activating their Soul Ring and you want to be a dick, you can spend 1 green and they don't get the mana, and you blow up their Soul Ring. Prime Speaker's Zagana. She was drawing me a lot of cards every turn. At the end of my turn, though, because I had the closet, Conjurer's Closet. So at the end of the turn, Prime Speaker's Zagana, 2 green, green, blue, blue, 6 mana for a 1/1. Yeah, 6 mana for a 1/1. What the fuck? When she comes into play, though, you give her X +1/+1 counters, where that's the greatest power among your other creatures. And when she comes into play, you draw cards equal to its power. So she comes into play and you've got, say, a 4/5. Well, she would be 5/6, so you draw 5 cards. And if you have Conjurer's Closet, at the end of each of your turns, you can just send her to the closet, she goes in, changes her clothes, comes out, and you draw more cards. Sword of Temptation, another card not much to talk about. 2 blue blue for a flying fairy wizard. Comes into play, you just steal somebody's creature for as long as you control it. Thassa, God of the Sea. So I moved Thassa out of... I had her in another deck. I forget which deck. Kestia. I had her in Kestia. And she's not really necessary. I played Kestia last night. And I did not miss Thassa, God of the Sea at all. Oh wow, Kestia's a house. Okay, so Thassa, God of the Sea. 2 and a blue for a 5/5 indestructible god. You get Devotion, yeah. Beginning of your upkeep, you scry 1, and then you can make a creature unblockable for 1 and a blue. So I had her in play, and she was pretty nice. A 5/5 indestructible for 3. How can that not be nice? Splendid Reclamation. This just didn't come up in the games I played. 3 into green for a sorcery. Return all land cards from graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Might put that into Corvold, but he proved last night he doesn't really need it. Man, the new direction of Corvold, it's fucking brutal. It's more fun to play than the typical sacrifice standoff version, and it's just as effective. I'm really happy with the way that worked out. Okay, Plasma Capture. Blue, blue, green, green. Instantly cut. It's a mana drain. It's a mana drain where you counter a spell, and then at the beginning of your next pre-combat main, you get X mana, where X is that spell's CMC. Only because you're paying the 2 green, you can put that mana in any combination of colors. So, mana drain, you just get colorless. You counter a spell, your next upkeep, your next main, your next pre-combat main, you get colorless mana, whatever the spell was. This, you can choose the colors. Okay, Nomade Shepherd. 300 green for 2/4 Elf Shaman. She's going to go into the Elf deck. Tap 4 and tap creatures you control, destroy target artifact or enchantment, and she doesn't have a tap symbol. So if you have 3 creatures and you just play her, you can tap her and those other 3 right away, as if they had, and destroy an artifact or enchantment. So she's good. She's going to go in the Elf deck. Seedborn Muse. Now, the Elf deck, I'm going to try to keep it tribal elves. try to not have any non-elf creatures. That said, I do have the Seedborn Muse now that doesn't have a home. 3 green for a 2/4 spirit. You untap with everybody else. Each of your opponents, when they untap, you untap along with them. So you get a lot more activations out of your stuff. Maybe I should put her into Corvold, but he's good right now. And in Corvold, all it's going to really do is let me play the 1 or 2 instants, which isn't a problem right now, and give me blockers, which isn't really a problem right now. So he doesn't really need her. So I don't know. I don't know where she's going to go. I don't know if some of you were listening to the game. No, I didn't put the game up. Oh, I had a game with Cube I put on camera, and I didn't put it up. I didn't post it because I didn't get the finish. My battery died before I got the finish. But I was making jokes about this guy. I was calling him a homosexual horde and saying, wouldn't it be cool to alter it so he's got a harness and a Freddie Mercury mustache and a leather hat? I just think that would be, personally I think that'd be funny. I know I just lost like 10 subscribers by saying that, but homosexual horde? That's hilarious. Anyway, 3 in a blue, creature homosexual. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a token that's copy this creature. This guy worked. Oh my god, this guy fucking worked. He was great. Because the way the deck is designed, I should draw a second card each turn, every turn. If it works pretty close to what it's supposed to. So at one point, I had like, what, 24 of these dudes? And then of course, Cube cast Starstorm for 2 and wipe them out. But I'm thinking, if I rebuild this deck, when I built it, I didn't put a coat of arms in because I didn't think I would have that many tokens. Oh, I was wrong. I had a lot of tokens. And I don't have to cast the coat of arms until I have a horde of homosexuals. AC, Tyrant of Gyre Strait. 4 blue-green for a 5/5 legendary serpent. I can play an additional land in each of my turns. Whenever land enters a battlefield under my control, I may draw a card. Tatyova, in contrast, says you will draw a goddamn card. Whenever land enters a battlefield under control, you will gain a life and you will draw a card. If you don't, that's a warning. Judge, sort this guy out. Okay, Conjurer's Closet. 5, beginning your instep. What do you want, Max? Max is meowing. Beginning of your instep, you may exile target creature you control, and then return... What? Max, shut it. Then return the card to the battlefield under control. So basically it just recycles into the battlefield abilities, of which this deck has quite a few. Shadow Spear. 1 equipped creature gets +1/+1 trample and lifelink. 1 permanent your opponent's control lose hexproof and indestructible until end turn. Do I want this in the elf deck? I don't know. It's not like I'm going to sell it. It's not like I'm going to sell any of these cards. I'm going to keep them all. Gotta collect them all. Overbeing of Myth. I didn't get her in play. 5 blue or 5 green hybrid. Power toughness equal number of cards in your hand. Beginning of your draw step, draw a card. Maybe I did get her in play one game. I can't remember. Arashi, the sky is under. 3 green for legendary spirit. 5/5. X and 1 green tap. He deals X damage to target creature with flying. Or you can channel him. You spend X and double green, throw him in your graveyard, and he deals X damage to all creatures with flying. And remember, you can channel as an instant. Didn't get him. He didn't come up. Ramamnup Excavator. 2 and a green for a 2/3 Naga Cleric. I can play land cards in my graveyard. He's basically a 2/3 Crucible of Worlds. I mean, he has the same CMC. He says the same thing. It's just he's a 2/3. And of course, if I have the, you may play additional land effects, any of them, I can play more lands out of my graveyard. Thrix the Sudden Storm. So this is the test bed. This whole deck was a test bed, just to try different cards, see how they worked, see how I liked them. He didn't do anything. He was not worth the slot. I still like him. I'll put him in some deck. I just don't have the... Maybe Nekazar. Maybe Nekazar, because he would make Nekazar uncounterable. He'd make Memory Jar uncounterable. I don't know. I'll think about it. He's not in Nekazar now, so I probably don't need him there. 3 blue, 4/4, 5 flashy flyer. Spells you cast with CMC 5 or greater cost 1 less and can't be countered. Abishan. Okay, this guy did not come into play. I did not see him in any of the games, but I know he works because I've used him before. 4 blue for a 3/3. Yeah, that's great, isn't it? Wouldn't you love to play 6 mana for a fucking 3/3 octopus? But tap and untap Cephalid you control. Tap target permanent. So during somebody's upkeep, you can just tap their Nykthos, their 3-tree city, Cabal Coffers, whatever you think is going to bother you. And then also, if they're playing a lot of ground creatures, you could spend trouble blue and tap all creatures not flying. So they say, okay, I'm going to combat. I think you're going to attack me, so let's tap all the ground creatures. And then if you've got Seedborn Muse, all yours will untap at the next turn. Unless it's your turn, which they would untap anyway. Unless you have Temporal Distortion and you've got a bunch of Hourglass counters on your stuff, then it's a little bit dicier. Anyway, so I've got a lot of ways to draw cards. Sometimes I need creatures and I want to guarantee I get a creature, or I don't want to draw the cards because I don't want to have to discard a bunch of them. So Words of Wilding. 2 and a green, spend 1. Next time you draw a card this turn, put a 2/2 green bear creature token into play instead. I've had this card for years because I really like the art, I like the foil, I like the way it looks. And this goes into the sacrifice version of Corvold, and it's part of an infinite machine gun you all die combo, which I don't play that version anymore because, as I said, it was kind of boring. I feel bad for playing it. I don't feel bad for smashing people in the face because if they don't have any blockers, that's not my problem. It might be my fault, but it's not my problem. Quelling Oracle. Blue and a green for a 1/1 Snake Elf Druid. When he comes to play, show off the top card of your library. Show it to everybody. If it's a land card, put it into play. Put it into play. Untapped. Bang. Otherwise, put it in your hand. So either you put a land into play, untapped, or you can just draw a card. Sweet. Empress Galena. I really need to find a home for... Is that dust up there? I really need to find a home for her. I mean, 3 blue for a 1/3. Double blue tap. Gain control of target legend or legendary permanent. You can snatch that 3-tree city. You can snatch that Nykthos. You can snatch that... I think, is Helm of the Host legendary itself? I don't know. But you can take it if it is. Planeswalkers are legendary permanents too. You can steal a lot of stuff with her. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Steal it, baby. Steal it. And if you have Seedborn Muse, every turn you can steal something. You untap with this guy. You tap blue, steal something. Maybe steal it from that guy. But then when that guy untaps, if you see more, you untap. So you can steal 4 things a turn. Because I'm pretty damn sure in a commander game, there's going to be a lot of legendary permanents. It's just nature of the game. Yamama of the East Tree. So Yamama of the East Tree costs 4 of green. He's a 6/6, so you get what you pay for. He can reach up and grab flying creature and smash it to the ground and beat the shit out of it. When another permanent enters the battlefield into control, if it... Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay, I just realized an interaction. So, whenever another permanent enters the battlefield in control, if it wasn't put on the battlefield with this ability, you may put a permanent card with equal or lesser CMC from your hand. So, if I had him in play, when Prime Speaker Zagana is going through the closet, when she comes back, I could put something from... Wow, I could put more things from my hand into play. Okay, that's it. If I rebuild this deck, I know what I'm going to do. Push that interaction. Crystal Sharb. 3 artifact. Spend 3 or 1 blue. Typically 1 blue. It's a blue-green deck. Make somebody pick up one of the creatures unless they pay 1. If you pick up one of your creatures, I don't suggest you make yourself pay 1 to counter it. That would not make any sense. Don't make no sense. Your Mama's Reach, 2 and a green, go find 2 basic lands, 1 in your hand, 1 to play, everybody knows what the hell that is. Acclamation du blue for a 1/2 human et sorcerer. When she comes into play, take an instant or sorcery out of your graveyard and put it in your hand. Look at it. Enjoy it. Because you get to cast it again. And if you go through the closet, you can do it again. Consecrated Sphinx, 4 blue for a 4/6 flyer. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you may draw 2 cards. So, this. Now, the Horde and Joro both say when you draw your second card each turn, you draw 2 cards. So, you can see where, I think you can tell where I'm going with this. I want it to work where I drew 2 cards. 1, 2, so I drew a second card. But since it's one instance of drawing 2 cards, does that function? Will that count as drawing 1 and 2 cards? Or is it you just drew 2 cards at once? It's one of those fine rules of the game that we can argue about it for hours until somebody fucking checks Gather. They go on Google and, okay, no, here's the rule. Which, it takes kind of the fun out of it. The arguing and pleading your case and making your points, that's part of the fun of the game. Culture, it's just another Your Mama's Reach. Go find 2 basic lands, 1 to play tapped, 1 in your hand. Yeah. Everybody plays that plays green. Garruk Wildspeaker with a Pro Tour stamp. 2 green, 3 loyalty, +1, untap 2 target lands, -1, you get a 3/3 beast, -4, creatures you control get +3/+3 and trample until end of turn. Here comes the Horde. The Horde of homosexuals are coming. I really think they'd be great though. The Freddie Mercury mustache, have the lead one with a harness and the leather hat. I like that image. It's too bad my friend Ren isn't doing altars anymore. Of course, I don't know if he would. He might do that. He can see my humor sometimes. Talisman of Curiosity, 2. Tap it for colorless or tap for green or blue and hurt yourself. For us, this guy was better than I thought. For years, I just never bothered. I had one. I liked the art. I just never bothered playing him. But in this deck, I thought, okay, I'm going to try him out. It's a test bed. He was a lot of fun. He was working pretty damn good. I didn't think I was tapping enough things, but I was tapping key things by having him attack. And then with Thassa, I can make him unblockable to make sure he gets through so he doesn't get blocked and killed, so I can tap something down again next turn. 4 blue for a 6/6 giant. Whenever he comes into play or attacks, tap target permanent. It does not untap during its controller's next untap step. And he's got Ward too. Target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter it unless they pay 2. So it's basically ward 2. There's probably some fine difference, but I don't give a shit. I'm not going to worry about it. Void Slime. It's disallow. It is. Counter target spell, activated ability, triggered ability. It's just instead of one colorless blue, it's green, blue. It's fucking disallow. Which, there's a copy in the deck. Maybe I already showed it and I forgot already. Scavenging Ooze. I decided to put this in for graveyard control. I think it came up in one game, but didn't really matter. But in the games where it does matter, it really matters. 1 in the green for a 2/2 Ooze. 1 green, exile target card from graveyard. If it's a creature, the Ooze gets bigger and you gain life. Okay, Thawing Glaciers. So, every turn, if I play the Glaciers, it guarantees me land drops. So fucking slow. Comes into play tapped. And then you have to wait it, unless you play it on your opponent's turn. There are cards that let you do that. Comes to play tapped. 1, tap, search library for basic land, put it in play tapped. So that comes into play tapped 2, and then you bounce this back to your hand. Fucking slow. But if you have Burgeoning, you can simply replay it on your opponent's turn, so on your turn it's ready to go again. Island, yeah, I don't need to. If I need to explain Island to you, to whoever's listening, I don't know what to tell you. Semi-Growth Chamber. Comes into play tapped, bounce a land back to your hand, tap it, add blue-green to your mana pool. Okay, so part of the thing I was thinking is, like the last time I tried a similar deck, I thought I would have things to tap everybody's creatures. Bloodthirst Squall. 1 blue, rather. Tap target creature you don't control. Overload. 3 in a blue. Tap all creatures you don't control. So, kind of a fog. But with Temporal Distortion, so if I tap all the creatures I don't control and there's Temporal Distortion in play, then those creatures will not untap during their opponent's next untap steps because they will have to remove the Hourglass counters from them instead. So I didn't have enough tap everything that I don't control to really get the distortion going. If you're going to try this, if you're going to get a temporal distortion and try it, what I would recommend is putting in more tap all the stuff you don't control abilities, tap other things you don't control, effects, and a way to search out the temporal distortion. It's blue-green, so your ability to search for an enchantment is a bit limited. Maybe if you built a Bant deck, and then you can have white, you can have Idyllic Tutor and Light Tutor, so you can go find the Hourglass, or the Temporal Distortion, if that's the way you want to go. This guy's funny. He didn't come into play soon enough to matter against the Tyrannids, but 4 blue for 4/5 Crab. King Crab. 1 in green tap, put target green creature on top of his owner's library. So against the Tyranids, I started putting the tokens because Cube had all the shit to, if you make a X is 5 or more from his Tyranids, you make a token copy of the goddamn thing that you just put into play. You know, the fucking 10/10 trampler. So you put the token on top of the library and poof, gone. It can also save my creatures. So for example, if somebody wants to kill my Seedborn Muse, I can put it on top of my library. You know, it can work defensively also. Okay, the Indomitable. And we're going to have a part 2. Not really a part 2, I'm just going to splice these together. It's going to be a long ass video because I'm barely through and it's already 30 minutes. Okay, the Indomitable, I got this for this deck, but I'm not going to get rid of it because I like it. It was a lot of fun. 2 blue for a 6/6 trampling ship. Whenever creature control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. Crew 3. So you need to tap three creatures that aren't doing anything else in order to get this to go attack. And you can cast it from your graveyard as long as you have 3 or more tap pirates and or vehicles. Well, there aren't any other pirates in the deck, and this is the only vehicle, so that's not going to happen. Cold-Eyed Selkie. 1 green, green, blue, blue for a 1/1 Island Walker. Whenever she hits somebody, you can draw that many cards. So you just need to make her bigger. This is another card. I got this guy also for the deck. And I'm not sad about it at all, because he can go somewhere. Ooh. Oh, wow. I should put him in Corvold. Oh, I really should, because I don't have that many ways of protecting Corvold, protecting my creature. Okay. He's got a home. He's got a home indeed. Deep Sea Kraken. 10 mana. Are you fucking kidding me? 7 and Trouble Blue? Fuck that. I'll just pay 2 and a blue to suspend him for 9 turns. But whenever an opponent plays a spell, if it's suspended, you remove 10. The more spells they play, the faster he comes down to be a 6/6 unblockable and smash them in their face. I like that guy. Avengers Zendikar. I mean, what's to say? 5 green, green, 5/5 elemental comes into play. Put a 0/1 plant creature token onto the battlefield for all of your lands. Whenever you play a land after that, all your plants, you can, if you want, you can put a +1/+1 counter on all your plants. Well, why wouldn't you? That don't make no sense not to. And if he goes to the closet and comes back, you get more plants. 10th Discovery. I'm not going to talk about that. I've talked about that every video. If you watch my videos, or you're new, and you have questions about why I said I'm not talking about it this time, hit me up in the comments and I will talk about it next time. I'm sure Izzy Schemy is disappointed I'm not talking about it. He likes that kind of thing. Reclamation Sage, 2 and a green for a 2/1 elf shaman. Comes into play, may destroy target artifact, jam it. Okay, so I'm recycling the same sleeve, so she's obviously going in the black-green elf deck. I mean, why not? Titania, Protector of Orgoth. 5/3 Legendary Elemental. 3 green, green for that 5/3. When she comes into play, return target land card from graveyard to the battlefield. Whenever land you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, create a 5/3 green elemental creature token. So again, this is another reason to have the closet. So she can go in the closet, come back, and I get another land back. And that's... this guy is probably the reason most of the lands would be in the graveyard. Sack a land, target creature I control gains Shroud until end of turn. I'm going to put this guy in another deck. I got it for this deck. This is the anime version of Venser. It's pretty cool. I like it. To the void with you. 2 blue blue 2/2 flashy human wizard. When he comes into play, bounce a spell or permanent back to his owner's hand. So I'm going to replace one of my many other standard image Vensers with that guy, just to do it. Ether Spouts, 3 blue blue for each attack creature its owner puts it on the top or bottom of his or they get to choose. So are you going to choke your next draws, or are you going to put them on the bottom so you can draw fresh cards? Your decision. You go with your bad self, Mr. McFlappy. Okay, Scroob Ranger, 1 and a green for a 1/1 flashy fairy. Flying protection from blue. Now, that protection from blue, that's relevant a lot more than you would expect. A lot more. Sometimes it won't be at all, depending on what your opponents are playing. But if they're playing something like, oh, I don't know, that Knight Jabari in Esper colors, where the dude wants to attack with him every single turn and wants him to connect in order to take advantage of his bring a knight out of the graveyard effect. And she stops that shit. And you can bounce a forest you control to its owner's hand and tap target creature. Only once per turn, but it gives you another land to play it, to draw a card and gain a life. Timeless Witness. Okay, it's Eternal Witness. She just works. 2 green, 2/1 Human Shaman. Comes to play, return target card from graveyard to hand. So far, all the cards that I have shown you either worked and were perfectly fine in the deck, and I would be happy to use them in, except Thrix. Thrix will come out. He did impress me. But pretty much everything else, the deck is good. So taking out those few cards to tune it, I can make it a lot more effective, a lot more focused, but I just don't want to. I want to make that black-green elf deck because I already have blue-green. A Walking Sponge. This is tricky. This guy, I had him in play, and he didn't matter because I was being attacked by a horde more often than not. So 1 and a blue for a 1/1 sponge. Yes, it's a sponge. It's a walking sponge. Tap, target creature loses flying, first strike, or trample until end of turn. So he only affects 1 creature. He's a 1/1, so he dies to a stiff breeze. And if your opponents are playing, if their strategy is to play, and they can play multiple big creatures, then he just doesn't do enough. Now I'm thinking, if I put this into Nekazar, where I'm trying to slow things down, crawl space, Silent Arbiter. If I've got Silent Arbiter, and I get attacked with a huge trampler, well, I can take away the trample and block with something I can afford to sacrifice, so I don't take the damage. So in a more of a control build, where you're establishing defenses, propaganda, ghostly prison, this would probably really shine in that sort of deck, because if you have enough of those, you have to pay a shitload of mana to attack me, so they pay the mana in order to attack you. They're only coming with 1 or 2 creatures, and they're going to come with a big quality creature. So if you can take away the trample or first strike or flying, then you can block it. You can deal with it. So it felt like more of a control card. Felt like it should go into a control deck. Soul Ring. Constant Mists. I could put this into Corva, but he just didn't need it. Oh, wow. He was a fucking house. He won both games I played with him last night. And although the genie could have won, but the genie decided he wanted to be a kingmaker, and his plan didn't work because Cube, who he wanted to crown as the king to make Cube win, he didn't want to cooperate. So Corvald killed the genie, and then Cube is staring down Corvald, and that was the end of the game. Constant Mist. It's an instant. 1 and a green. Buy back, sacrifice a land. Creature at Fog. Creatures deal no combat damage this turn. So you cast it, you eat a land, and you put it back in your hand, as long as it resolves. If it gets countered, oh well. You ate the land for nothing. Speaking of counterspell, counter target spell. That always works. So this would have been pretty nice in this deck. The idea is, I've got 2 ways of giving all my creatures flying, and I've got Abyshin. So if all my creatures fly, if I spend triple blue and Abyshin taps all the non-flying creatures, mine aren't affected, so I can pummel people. 2 green for an enchantment, creatures control flying. Normally, I wouldn't want to play this because it doesn't do anything else. But that everything has flying, if you have enough creatures, that's effective enough to be worth the slot. And then, of course, the very next card is the other thing that gives everything flying. Plus, first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, protection from black, and protection from red. For the low, low price of 7 mana on a shaky artifact. I mean, look, it's already falling apart, you know. Somebody tried to naturalize it already. Quartier Fantôme, Ghost Quarter. So, if I'm bringing lands back from my graveyard, then I can Ghost Quarter something that bothers me, and bring back the Ghost Quarter. And speaking of Ghost, I also have Ghost. It's funny that I had both things that give everybody flying next to each other, and both Ghost lands are next to each other. I don't know how the hell that happened. And they follow right immediately. Anyway, Ghost Town. Look at those towers in the background. Do they look suspicious? Do you think the artist might have had something on his mind when he was painting it? They look suspect to me. So, Ghost Town. Tap, add 1 color to mana pool, bounce it back to your hand for free. You just pick it up. You just pick it back up. Because the air here smells like a grave. And the reason for this is so on my opponent's turn I can pick it up and then I can replay it and get those nice draw and gain life triggers from my Tatyova. And, well, AC doesn't give me life, but he lets me play more lands and lets me draw cards. Yeah, Command Tower, but who knows what the hell that is. Okay, we already talked about Island. So, again, if you need me to explain an island, you've not been playing long enough. If you don't understand Island, you're not going to have a good time when you go up against your first control deck. He'll teach you Island, and you won't like it. Hopefully you have the self-control not to pick up his deck and throw it across the room. Breeding pool. Forest. Kenyon Serpentine. So I've got Seedborn Muse. So in my decks of Seedborn Muse, I'd like to put these in. So you untap with everybody. If you have Winding Canyons, you can spend 2, tap it, and until end of turn, you can play creatures as if they had flash. Or you can tap for 1 colorless. So Seedborn Muse, you untap with everybody. At the end of their turn, you flash something into play. The next guy goes to untap, you untap with him, so you've got the canyons and creatures ready to go again, provided you have anything in your hand worth casting, of course. Provided you have any creatures, but that's why all the card draw to get the goddamn creatures. Forest. Hinterland Harbor. Yeah, it provides blue or green. Island. Forest. I need more foil forest. I think that's the only one. I think I've got 3 foil islands and 1 foil forest from this lower one. What did I do? Oh, I must have... okay, yeah, I separated all the lands out of the deck for the most part. That kind of explains why the ghost lands are together. You have my coast. It can hurt you. Or you can spend 1 colorless and it won't. Alright, the idea of the deck initially was going to be sea and sky. I deviated pretty far from that pretty quickly when I was actually building the deck. But I wanted to play this anyway because I love looking at it. I love Rishadan Port. I did not love it when people were playing them against me back when I was playing Extended. I fucking hated that. But I like the card itself. I like the art. In Commander, it's not going to do that much unless you're playing... If you're playing against more... I'm going to start using the terminology. If you're playing against bracket 3, bracket 4 decks, and then running bullshit lands, as the Genie calls them, like Gaia's Cradle, Cabal Coffers, Nykthos Shrine to Next 3, any of that, then this starts to become much better. If they're just playing basic lands and some Yavimaya Coast and shit like that, what's the fucking point? Unless they have City Brass. If they have City Brass, you can make them hurt themselves, because every time City Brass becomes tapped, you take a point of damage. And City Brass doesn't care why it's getting tapped. It's just, I got tapped, I'm going to hurt you now. Burn. You're like, ow, my ass. But I didn't do it. And Superbrass says, I don't give a fuck. If you can't control your opponents, that's your problem. Take your damage and suck it up. City of Brass is a bad, bad land. Alright, Coral Atoll. Again, the deck was supposed to be sea and sky. Deviated, but this fits the deck anyway. Comes to play tapped. When it comes to play, I have to bounce an untapped island. Untapped island. Back to my hand. But it gives me one blue and one colorless. And the land that comes back, if I have Tatyova, AC, anything like that in play, then I can replay it, get some sweet land came into play triggers, and keep going. Roller Curry Tower, because the deck should be drawing a lot of lands. Especially if you've got a prime speaker as a guy going in a closet at the end of every turn. I'm going to be drawing a lot of lands, a lot of cards. And I don't want to constantly discard them. So the Roller Curry Tower is there to help me not discard them. Okay, now I'm wondering, why did I take all the lands and I put them together, and then I have these that aren't lands off? Well, okay, anyway, I was taking the deck apart and I made some weird decisions, probably because I had 3 or 4 beers at the end of the game when I decided, yeah, the experiment was fine, it works. I just don't want to keep 2 blue-green decks. I don't want to maintain decks and color combinations I already have. Even though, so I still have Galadriel is blue-green, but I don't count her as one of my decks because I didn't build her. I just modified it with some Lord of the Ring cards. Frodo and Sam, they are black, green, white. I have Ikri Shidiki Surakondo, black, green, white. But just as with Galadriel, I don't feel like Frodo and Sam is my deck. I own it, but I didn't build it. And I only changed about 15 cards. Maybe 20 cards. Maybe. But I don't think so. I think only about 15. So if I only change 15% of the deck, it's still pretty much the pre-con that Wizards issued. Oh, Jorah. Didn't talk about her. So she works not as fast as the Horde because they double it. They go recruiting. They have a pride parade and they recruit every turn, and their recruitment drive is successful. She only gives you 1 kitty cat. Every turn you draw a second card. The Horde gives you first another one, and then 2 more, and then 4 more, and then 8 more, and then 16 more. So yeah, it's like you've got San Francisco on your board in just a couple turns. 1 in green for a 1/2 human druid. Never draw your second card each turn. You get a 2/2 green kitty cat. That's the real reason she's in here, is that. 4 green. Until end of turn, creatures you control have base power toughness XX, with S number of cards in your hand. So if I'm drawing a shitload of cards, I'm gonna, at the minimum, I should reliably have 5. And if I have 16 Horde, I don't want to keep saying homosexual Horde because every time I say it, I probably lose 10 subscribers. And I haven't even hit 500 yet. 16 of them, make them all 5/5, 16 5/5s. Oh, that's going to hurt somebody real bad. Tidal Visionary, he was in here mainly to go with King Crab. 1 blue for a 1/1 wizard. It's probably Merfolk Wizard now. He probably got updated up until, what was it? I think around 8th edition is when they did the update, maybe Onslaught. But Invasion, you still had creatures that had just 1 creature type. And nowadays, they updated it, so in Invasion she would have been an elf. Or a shaman. Full stop. A shaman. She looks like an elf, but it's not until later that she became an elf. So this guy, I'm pretty damn sure he's a merfolk now. Anyway, you just simply tap him, and target creature becomes color choice until end turn. So you can turn something green, and if you have the King Crab, you can throw that green creature back on top of its owner's library, so it chokes their draw, and you get rid of a problem until you can solve it later. Kick the can down the road, just like the federal government. 1 green, enchantment, burgeoning. Whenever an opponent plays land, you may put a land card from your hand on the battlefield. So the ghost town. If I have Tatyova out, opponent plays a land. Okay, I can bounce the ghost town back to my hand on their turn, and then because they played a land, I can replay the ghost town, draw a card, and gain life. Nice. Why is he meowing like that? About this time of night, he just fucking starts that shit. Solemn Simulacrum, I'm going to have to go play with him. Solemn Simulacrum 4. Everybody knows what this guy does. He comes to play, you put a basic land and play tapped. If he dies, you draw a card. Everybody. Or maybe you don't. If you know what Solemn Simulacrum does, go buy one, put in your deck, find out what he does, and fall in love with him like everybody else has. Kiss the sad robot. Harbinger of the Tides, blue for a 2/2. If you pay 2 more, he becomes flashy. He's a merfolk wizard, see? Merfolk wizard. When he comes to the battlefield, you can bounce a target tap creature an opponent controls back to... So you can't save your own creature. He will not save your creatures. If you have a tap creature and it's going to die, he's like, sorry, that motherfucker's on his own. I ain't doing shit. Like, you son of a bitch. You only fuck with these guys' stuff? Yeah, I ain't touching your stuff, man. I don't know where you've been. Okay. And that's it. So I'm going to take this deck apart. Well, I did take it apart. I'm going to, well, there's only 2 cards really for the black-green elf deck. Everything else will go back in the art binder. Keep it for later. He'll go in Corvold. He'll go somewhere. Maybe I'll use the burgeoning in the elf deck. I don't know. But it was a fun experiment. I was quite happy with the deck. I enjoyed playing it. Got to see some things that I hadn't tried before work. Specifically the Frost Titan. And he worked out better than I thought he would. Anyway, that's that. When I get the blue-green elf deck, I'll show it to you.